Yes. Counselor Wong,
Present.
Counselor Rosenthal,
Present.
Counselor Lewis,
Present.
Counselor Gonzalez should be here. Oh, Counselor Gonzalez.
Present.
Counselor Nolan and Counselor Simpson are excused, and Council President Peterson.
Here, thank you. All right, we have one, before we begin our agenda items, Georgia, can we please play the safety video for in-person attendees?
I'm Jason, and I'm an event production manager. Here at the Portland 5 Centers for the Arts, safety is our #1. Event production manager. I'm Jason, and I'm an event production manager. Here at the Portland 5 Centers for the Arts, safety is our #1 priority, not only for our guests, but for our staff members. I'm at the Portland 5 Centers for the Arts, and you're at the Metro Regional Center. The council chambers are located on the 3rd floor.
The one that he has to hear the
In the event of a
instructions.
fire or
That
fire
was
alarm,
awesome.
please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room. Go down the stairway to the 2nd floor, exit through the main entrance by the reception desk, and gather in the courtyard outside that entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the reception desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you, and come visit us at Portland 5.
Period for the draft regional systems facilities plan. The council directed Metro staff to ensure the regional system facilities plan is guided by 3 goals: waste reduction, increased access, and affordability. Over the past year, Metro has engaged local partners, industry partners, community organizations, and even international experts to develop the draft plan, with the goal of refining our long-range plan to carry out the goals of the regional waste plan and clarify Metro's role in providing waste facility-based services. Today's review includes substantive proposed revisions to the plan in response to public feedback for our consideration. Here with us today is Marta McGuire, our Waste Prevention Environmental Services Director, and I'll let you go ahead and introduce staff. Thank you.
Good morning, President Peterson and counselors. Thank you so much for the opportunity to engage with you today. I have here with me Esty Siegel and Luis Sandoval, Principal Planners and Waste Prevention and Environmental Services that have been leading this project effort. The last time we brought this project to you was in July to confirm direction on an investment strategy to include in the draft plan. The draft plan was issued on October 1st and open for public comment through early November. And I just want to acknowledge and thank you all for your leadership and the work that got us to today. If we're able to pull up the slide deck, we can start there. Go to the next slide. This slide outlines our discussion for today. We'd like to review the input we gathered through the public comment period and seek your input on the proposed revisions based on this input. We would also like to seek your support to refer the plan to the Regional Waste Advisory Committee to provide feedback prior to adoption. I'd like to just start with a brief recap on the plan purpose and work to date, and then we'll jump into the public input and proposed revisions. Next slide. Council has identified strategic targets, including environment and economy. A key priority that advances progress towards these targets is a garbage and recycling system that provides equitable and affordable services for everyone. To address this priority, we've been working on the regional system facilities plan that takes a holistic look at the region's waste system, addressing longstanding gaps in facilities and services. To provide context for our current state, on the next slide, we have the example of the current state of our system of Metro South. This facility opened to the public in April 1983. Designed originally to host an incinerator, the facility was expected to process up to 800 tons of waste every day. Fast forward to today, and Metro South processes more than 300,000 tons annually. The challenges to this site are daily, and our team does an exceptional job operating an overburdened facility in a safe and efficient manner. However, to keep high-quality materials out of the landfill, we need more space to separate out recyclable and reusable items, and redevelopment of the site is needed. This is just one example of how over the last 40 years, the garbage and recycling needs of the region have changed. Some people have easy access to disposal options if they live close to a Metro transfer stations, but many people in the region do not. And as the region grows, more investment is needed to ensure that everyone, no matter where they live, has equal access to garbage and recycling services. Next slide. We also know that we live in a place where people care about the environment and are willing to spend more time and money to keep valuable resources out of the landfill. Here is a picture of a local recycling event hosted by James Recycling that SD attended. People waited more than half an hour to recycle items that cannot be collected at the curb and paid $3 a bag. This is just one example of our regional values in practice. Next slide. To address the aging system, the System Facilities Plan identifies investments needed to improve access to facilities and services for everyone. This plan is a 20-year vision to provide a roadmap for future investment and the first of its kind. Each project included in the final plan will have its own implementation plan and allocated budget through Metro's annual budget and fee development process. Next slide. As President Peterson mentioned, we've been engaged in the development of the plan over the last 2 years. Each phase of the project focused on building a chapter of the plan through an iterative process. This slide here shows the many touch points. Since our last engagement with you in July, we've completed more than a dozen city and county briefings in addition to presentations at advisory committees noted here. I really want to extend the thanks to President Peterson and counselors that attended many of these meetings with us. Next slide. And just a quick by the numbers slide. This slide shows the touch points with Metro advisory committees since the project's inceptions. We attended over 40 meetings with these committees to share project updates, seek guidance, and incorporate input in addition to conducting interviews with private industry to inform the plan development. Next slide. Here is an outline of the plan that includes the investment strategy, phasing, and financing approach. And I will now turn it over to Esty to touch on the key investments, what we heard, and the proposed revisions.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Again, my name is Esty Siegel. I use she, her pronouns. So the 4 investment areas in the plan are listed here: community drop-off depots, reuse and repair, organics, and commercial transfer stations. The plan describes the projects in each investment area at a conceptual level and includes their estimated costs, access, jobs, and environmental benefits. Next slide, please. We issued a draft plan for public review on October 1st, and we are now transitioning to the final phase of the plan development, bringing you a revised draft plan today that incorporates some of the input we received. We received input on the plan in a few different ways, including comments submitted through the website and letters from local jurisdictions and industry, which generated over 90 comments that we responded to in the public comment report, which is attachment 1 to today's staff report. We also received 87 survey responses and feedback from presentations and discussions held with 11 cities, counties, and advisory committees in the region. Next slide, please. So this slide, it's kind of small, the quotes, but it presents a sample of the input and reactions to the plan from a variety of project partners. I'd like to read just a couple of them. We heard from multiple local government administrators that there is a critical need for public services on the west and east sides of the region, especially for household hazardous waste services. The project's community advisory group supported the proposed network of community drop-off depots that are going to be affordable, prioritize reuse and repair, and provide educational resources. A city councilor voiced concern about cost impacts to implement the plan and a desire for more transparent fee setting. And this was echoed by some local government staff and private industry. The public comment report provides many more nuanced observations, input, and questions on the draft plan, along with staff responses. Staff will also be sharing a report that summarizes all engagement received on the draft plan. Next slide, please. 6 themes emerged from the input we received this fall. First, there is strong support for building a network of community drop-off depots. Community partners especially like the idea of these one-stop places to take a host of materials for reuse, repair, and recycling. Some city administrators and staff recommended decreasing the number of depots to 4 instead of 6. They suggested 1 in north, south, east, and west of the region. While we also heard from some elected officials that there should be more than 6 depots to achieve a drive time of less than 20 minutes for the majority of residents. Secondly, coordinate with partners to site, program, and operate new facilities. Cities and counties, as well as industry and reuse businesses, would like to see more engagement around and be involved in the development of the infrastructure projects proposed in the plan. They have a vested interest in these facilities' location, their size, and the services they will provide. Third, start implementing where people lack services. Multiple local government administrators noted the existing lack of services on the west and east sides of our region, and that Metro should prioritize building facilities that serve the public in these areas. Fourth, improve and promote existing facilities. Multiple private facility owners requested that Metro partner with existing transfer stations, recycling facilities, and reuse businesses where possible. And some saw this as an opportunity to reduce the need to build new facilities. Fifth, waste reduction is a priority. Community partners, reuse businesses, and local government staff have voiced this as an overall priority of the plan and a necessary goal to mitigate climate change. And sixth, focus on cost and affordability. Some city staff and private industry representatives questioned whether investments would be cost effective and meet the goal of affordable rates. Some partners commented that the estimated $1.50 to $2 increase in the average single-family garbage bill could be a cost burden for lower-income residents, along with other rising utility costs. Next slide, please. So based on what we heard from the key themes, we are proposing 8 substantial revisions or additions to the plan. These are summarized in the staff report and on this slide, and I would like to briefly review them. First, we added a description and a map of existing recycling facilities that are open to the public to show this and private transfer stations. Secondly, we added 2 pages to describe the 2 pages to describe the investment section outlining potential partnerships and investment in existing private facilities. Metro-owned depots. Fourth, we amended the order of developing the community drop-off depots to prioritize areas of the region that lack public services the most. So the revised plan moves the East Multnomah County Depot planning to begin in 2026 rather than in 2031. To do this, it moves the North Portland Depot to begin planning in 2031, since public customers can continue to use Metro Central for self-haul, recycling, and household hazardous waste services in this area prior to siting and building a new North Depot. Fifth, we added language about preventing wasted food as the most preferred and environmentally beneficial method of addressing food waste in the organics investment section of the plan. Sixth, we changed the conceptual phasing and implementation schedule and costs to reflect the changes earlier. The annual operations and maintenance costs of the plan investments during the first year after each facility or program is fully operational. And lastly, we added a new page in Chapter 7 to describe in more detail how Metro plans to collaborate with partners on the planning and implementation of each project in the plan. So these revisions are incorporated in the revised draft plan that you have before you today as attachment 2 to the staff report. Next slide, please. We also heard a request from a few elected officials and solid waste staff that the newly restructured Regional Waste Advisory Committee have an opportunity to review the plan before its adoption. To respond to this, staff recommends referring the plan to the Regional Waste Advisory Committee to ask the questions listed here, which are, do you have feedback on the sequence of projects proposed in Phase 1? And do you have feedback or additional comments from Metro Council as they deliberate on adoption of the plan? As a note, this restructured committee is expected to provide input on the development of each investment project's implementation plan and budget, and provide recommendations to Metro Council on plan implementation as it moves forward. And next slide, please. So this is the timeline to finalize the plan and bring it to council for adoption. We expect to bring the plan to the Regional Waste Advisory Committee in January and February and refer their input to council for consideration in adopting the plan in March. And now I'll turn it back to Marta for the next slide where there's a few questions for council.
So we have two questions for council today. Does council support the proposed revisions to the draft plan? And does council support referring the plan to the Regional Waste Advisory Committee to collect additional feedback before adoption? And so I will turn it back to President Peterson.
Thank you. Thank you, staff. Much appreciated. It's amazing to be at this point.
We feel the
Everybody's
same.
relief. It's been a long journey, but a good one, I think, to find out how to get a lot of stuff done at a lower cost.
Mhm.
So and really prioritize. So I think we've got the headwinds with us this time. So council, any questions and or comments on the questions? Councilor Rosenthal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a real quick question. On the east of Multnomah County and then the Cornelius sites, I'm assuming that the Cornelius site, they're going to go forward more or less together, but the Cornelius site, of course, we already have property. Whereas the first phase of the East Multnomah County site would be to look for a suitable property location. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Great, thanks. I like the plan.
Thank you. Well, I just want to acknowledge President Peterson and council's leadership in really pushing us to develop a plan in partnership with community and local governments and industry that is affordable and that maximizes waste reduction. I think that has been the charge from the beginning, and going from where we were at the scenario development with $800 million scenarios down to one that is under 300 million and really achieves those goals around reduction and affordability and getting services for everyone. So just appreciate that leadership.
Councilor Lewis and then Councilor Gonzalez.
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to the team who's been working on this. We've been doing this a long, long time. The place that we're at right now feels like we've done the planning to plan, and now we need to do some like micro planning. And I do really appreciate the shifts that you made in the phasing, both in response to community input, but also probably like some reality checks of the ways of the world and financial feasibility. So highly supportive of the changes that you brought forward to us today. Wish Councilor Simpson was here since East Portland is his district, and that's kind of a big deal for him. But as long as he's been consulted and knows, I feel good moving forward. In terms of bringing this to the RWAC, that makes sense. If it's something that we've put into our timeline, it looks like March is reasonable. I will just say that I don't want us to get held up because I think we've brought this through plenty of public process, and we've had a lot of engagement with our local jurisdictions and industry partners. And my general reflection on this work is depots everywhere. And I
My
just
favorite
want to get
quote.
moving on it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Yeah, equally feel overjoyed to see the work come to this phase. Very supportive of this continuing to accelerate from planning into delivering a project for community. So absolutely support getting the RWAC to contribute to this. And I just know from the last few months, we've done a lot of very deep district engagement, which meant meeting with a great number of city partners, community partners, and I know that we worked really hard to get folks to answer questions, and I see a lot of that, like the result of that community engagement resulted in this framework that you're bringing to us. So really the only thing I can say is thank you for proving that regionalism is possible in garbage and recycling. And I can't wait for us to have these depots in construction.
And Counselor Wong.
Thank you, Madam President. And thanks for presentation and plan. I think I
Counselor
support.
Wong?
Yes.
Hi, Counselor. We're having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Should I wait? Can you hear me? No?
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Can we hear you now?
Can you hear me?
Nope. Hmm. Okay, Counselor.
How about now?
That works fine.
Oh, okay, great. Great, thanks. I think my main question, overall, I support the draft plan and the referral, but I'm wondering if you could speak a bit more about how the multifamily pilot is going to be reflected and how that's also going to be advancing as part of the plan.
I believe you're speaking to the bulky waste policy project that we've been updating council along the way. That complements the plan. We recognize that services for residents in the region both require the opportunity to have one-stop convenience that the community depots provides, and then others having opportunities to have things collected curbside. The bulky waste policy project is working on setting service standards for those that live in apartments and single-family households. So that work is continuing to proceed, and we'll have an update for council on that in the spring. We had shared the pilot results with you back in earlier this fall, and we'll have an update on what those service standards look like this spring.
Okay, so they're kind of running on separate tracks, even though they might be related to how folks in multifamily, either have curbside or go to one of these facilities.
Offering opportunities for all. I think one of the things we learned, particularly from the international panel of experts, is that there needs to be multiple options for folks to dispose of materials or promote them to a higher end use. And so I would say not separate tracks, but complementary. We want to provide convenience in terms of services, both at the curbside and at facility base. Not everybody has a car to be able to take materials to a particular depot. So the curbside service continues to be important. And at the same time, there is the need to have facility-based services for folks to take larger loads and a variety of materials too. There are some things that can't be collected at the curb, like household hazardous waste.
Thank you.
Yes.
Counselor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I thought of one other question. And a comment the comment first is I wanted just a short shout out to some of the stakeholders in my district who have been particularly proactive, as you are aware, in terms of commenting and providing feedback. And I hope it's been constructive. I think it is. I think they've been good intent. My question is, we do have a sufficient capacity region wide for wet waste. Is that correct? And that the only major adjustment in that might be if we do something different with South, and then we might have to do a wet waste facility of some sort, or find a wet waste facility in the southern portion of the district. Is that correct?
Yes, that is. We have sufficient wet waste transfer capacity. There are supporting policy and the actions in the plan that look at direct action to look at the wet waste tonnage allocation program and decreasing the wet waste to the metro transfer stations so they become community depots. That would leave a gap on the east side. And so that is looking at a public-private partnership for developing a new commercial wet waste transfer station.
Great. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Say that again.
South, sorry. Thank you.
South.
They heard me say it wrong.
That would leave a gap.
If Metro South no longer
Right.
accepts commercial wet
Yeah.
waste, that would leave a gap geographically in that area of the region. So
But
there,
not for Metro to necessarily fill.
no.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess I just want to round this out and say thank you. I feel like, maybe the angst that we were all feeling going into some of these bigger plans is now actually playing out on the ground when you look at the affordability of our region, and may not have actually made sense back then, but it's what I think we were all feeling it at some level, but we all knew that we had to solve a problem, right? And so I just look at where we've been able to pivot and really prioritize what the public sector does and what the private sector does, and try and rationalize this out for this moment in time, whatever that is. I mean, the reason we have the South Center in the first place is because there was going to be a series of waste, incineration plants, sorry, that weren't, that we didn't build, and we went in a different direction. I think being able to pivot to this new way of thinking, just trying to keep material out of the landfill. The state is already moving in that direction, and how do we move that along? How do we seed that? I think that's been great. And I just also want to reiterate that, well, the next steps with the policy of slowly reducing the amount of waste coming into South Central, there was an agreement with the industry that means that we move more into the space of regulation, and that we will be looking at rates. So I want to articulate that out loud, that was part of the agreement of, in order to keep the market stable, in order to make sure that we're doing our role in making sure that there's no price gouging, right? That people are being paid sufficiently throughout the region for what they're doing in this industry, that becomes a role that we are now willing to go into. And I just wanted to articulate that out loud. And if any counselor disagrees, this would be a good time to make sure that we're all on the same page. But I think that was kind of the push and pull as well. If we go further into this territory, then what gives us the right to be a regulator and a competitor from the eyes of the industry? So I think this helps clarify all of these roles and responsibilities for this moment in time, and I'm very appreciative. So thanks. Counselors, any other questions, comments? Well, that, I guess we'll be seeing you again to adopt the update. Thank you so much. A round of applause for you guys. All right, we'll move on to Chief Operating Officer Communication.
I don't have any updates for you.
All right, Counselor Communications. Counselor Rosenthal?
Yeah, I just wanted to report that we had the last Natural Errors Oversight Committee meeting of 2024 last Thursday. And I was able to send a message of appreciation from the council, and also to report on the allocation, or the decision to allocate the large scale community visions to the Kellogg Creek project, which they were interested in hearing about. We had a great presentation from the Capital and Asset Management and the DEI teams about the public benefits guidelines for contracts, and how these contracts funded by Parks and Nature Bond, and how we as an agency are tracking progress on the broader desired outcomes. There were some questions about that, and they were very interested in the diversity aspect of it. And workers in construction projects with limited harm to the national environment, that's one of their concerns. They were very engaged in the conversation. They have some new members, and they asked thoughtful questions. Thanks particularly to Ryan Kinsella, Gaby Bermudez, and Allison Miller for their great presentation. The committee also provided direction to staff about the topics they'd like to see in 2025, including an overview of the department's tribal government relations engagement work. It was particularly noted that we had the good tribal engagement on the Kellogg Creek project. They want an update on the progress of the Bonds walking and biking trails programs, and some more detailed analysis about the balance of land acquisitions completed to date. In other words, a little bit more detail on sort of exactly what areas have been acquired, I guess. So they were a little bit unspecific about that. So that was a good meeting, and they look forward to being involved again.
Thank you. Counselors, any other updates? Counselor Lewis?
Sure, thank you, colleagues. I want to update you that I was able to host a tour at the Willamette Falls Locks yesterday. And our tourees included the mayor of Milwaukee, representatives of Business Oregon, Clackamas County Tourism, and Travel Oregon. So another great day for Willamette Falls progress.
Awesome, thank you. Counselors? All right, seeing no hands raised, our next regular scheduled meeting is Thursday, December 19th, this week, 2024, at 10:30 a.m. See you there.
The short. You were pretty thoughtful this morning.